Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
It's okay. So the report is up. Do y'all see that?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and get started with the report as an informational. It says an informational since we don't have a quorum currently. So if you can advance to the executive summary or the market update, I'll start there as I usually do and then move into the financial status report. So as it relates to the market, inflation continues to be the topic of discussion. It's also the driver of the uncertainty that we're seeing in the market on top of the geopolitical crisis in Ukraine, which is just adding to the existing supply chain issues and upward pressures just across the board. The most recent CPI number, which is the February figure, reached another 40-year high. We talked about a 40-year high last month. It reached another 40-year high in the February figure, which is at 7.9. This was driven by the higher food and energy, as well as higher housing and rent costs was the drivers. There was increases across the board, but these were the primary drivers. On that note, the Fed is set to address this soaring inflation issue during its two-day meeting, which it actually begins today, where they're expected to begin unwinding the huge economic help they've been providing during this pandemic. This is at a time when we all know the conditions are far from ideal, so they have a huge challenge in front of them. But this process is likely or expected to start with an interest rate hike of roughly 25 basis points. This is something that we've been pointing to over the past couple of months, and the markets are kind of well aware of. Anything over that will probably be a little surprise, but they're expected to increase rates, or if they don't, will be a surprise as well. But they're expected to announce a 25 basis point increase. They're also expected to update the market on just future outlooks for the rates, as well as GDP, inflation, and unemployment numbers. And then they're also expected to wind down their bond purchasing program at the end of this month. So they'll have a final round of $16 billion in purchases that'll end this month, and they'll start kind of tapering down their huge balance sheet, $9 trillion balance sheet. So highly anticipated meeting. We'll hear what comes out of that tomorrow, and the market's kind of keying in on that. The unemployment rate continues to move in a favorable position. It's down slightly to 3.8 from the February number, from the 4% in the prior month. Jobless claims fell 215,000 from 223,000 in the prior week. That kind of signals a resilient labor market. And then on the bond rate front, rates were kind of mixed. The 10-year Treasury decreased slightly by 4% to 1.99. Munis increased across the yield curve, with the 10-year moving 20 basis points. And then agency mortgage-backed securities increased about 18 basis points as well. And then on a local front, this is just, I have a note in here for the Orleans Parish rate. This is the same note from last month, given there's not any updates on that rate, but we continue to see improvements locally. All right, if we can advance to the financial status report. There we go, page 7 there. So this is February year to date. Not much activity in February. Our actual revenues year to date are 7,000 to a budget of 134,000. So we have a miss there of 126,000, primarily driven by that multifamily program income line, which we do have pending projects out there that will get us close to that budget number once those projects close. So we know that there'll be whipsaws in that line. So we should see those projects and get updates on those projects in the next couple of weeks on the closing. And then on the expense side, fairly favorable, 231,000 actual expenses to a budget of 377,000. So we continue to have favorability there of $146,000 and favorability across each expense line. Next page. So this is our 13-month trending. Nothing major to report here. We're kind of within our average run rate on our revenues and expenses, light month. So nothing huge to report here. Next page. Balance sheet with the minimal activity, no major changes here. Next page. Our pathways for home ownership. Of course, there's no activity here. We'll have some information in the near future on the revamp of this particular fund. But ideally, the revenues that's generated is the interest on our accounts, which is 395,000 year to date. And then we have our typical maintenance and repairs and insurance expenses and utilities, which is 4,000 year to date. Next page. So our cash and cash equivalents as of the end of February is 9.2. That is down roughly 98,000 from the prior month of 9.3. So that is basically the net expenses month over month that changed that cash balance. But that concludes my report. Any questions, comments?
No questions here.
Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Thomas, I would like to add one thing to Mr. Badger's, to the end of his comments. You see the cash balance that he reported on. Of course, that's something we've been keeping an eye on over the last few years. But moving forward, it's something that we're going to keep an even closer eye on. So we want to see a positive trend on our cash, on our assets, which represent the wealth of Finance New Orleans and represents public wealth for New Orleans. So that's going to be a key driver of our ability to create impact moving forward. So something that we're going to be bringing to the board in the near future, two things. Number one, new programs. We'll have an update this month, programs committee and ultimately the board on where we're going with our housing programs and what are our intentions as it relates to infrastructure and innovation, the core of the Resilient New Orleans Finance Plan, which the board approved last year. So you'll learn more about that coming up. And then secondly, we're evaluating the issuance of some type of financing, whether it be impact bonds or PRI. And as you know, we've been at this for some time. A little background, back in 2017, the board gave the staff the blessing to start looking for financing options, innovative financing options. In 2019, we received a grant from the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative to allow us to study what the issuance of impact bonds would look like, not only for Finance New Orleans, but for a system-wide or citywide system of resilient infrastructure projects that could leverage impact of green bond financing. So that study has been carrying us through the pandemic. A lot of our R&D activity has centered around figuring out how we can get more balance sheet capacity in order to create the impact that we like to see. So all that to say, we are getting close to a result and something that, and a result that we're going to bring back to the board for your approval, which would be a financing that would allow us to create the balance sheet capacity we need to do more green mortgages, to do more development projects, and to stimulate the growth of this infrastructure program that we're trying to build. And then that will also result in that cash line projecting in the other direction. So I'm just introducing this to the board at this moment so you can understand what we're working on and what we're going to be bringing forth over the coming months, because there are some specific steps that we have to take in order to accomplish any kind of financing. But there are also some steps we need to take in order to get these new programs off the ground. So there'll be a list of approvals coming your way, but in the meantime, we're going to send you some information, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thanks.
And one other thing, I'll just add to that, and I mentioned this toward the end of the year, last year, is that, I want to enhance the reporting on the finance side and provide not just the backwards looking, but also a forward looking forecast. So a lot of that, a lot of the items that Damon mentioned in terms of maintaining the cash balances and incorporating some of these new programs, and a lot of that will be incorporated into the forecast, so you can have a forward look of where our cash balances should be if we're on target. So I'll be looking to implement that, and it may be on a quarterly basis at first, but that'll probably give you a greater picture into the future of our movement.
Got it. Thanks, guys.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you.
So with that being said, do I need to make a motion to adjourn?
Naj, I don't think we have to do any kind of formal steps, right? This is
No,
just information.
it's because we didn't have a quorum. We can just end the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully everybody can attend and we can have some kind of quorum next time and get some things done. But I'm looking forward to the future.
Sure. Thank you so
Thomas. Thank you
much.
for your service.
Thank you.
All right, y'all.